Okay, we're just gonna get right into this. Hello, I'm Ethel. I was also Mr. Manatee, and welcome to Clickteam Fusion tutorial number 2. Now, number 2 because 3 years ago, when I was as squeaky as I could possibly be, I was just such a small, fragile little boy, right? I made a Clickteam Fusion tutorial number 1 for easier full screen. It was the stupidest fucking video ever, but it was awesome, right? So, I wasn't really ever gonna make another one because after that I was like, well, that was fucking stupid. Let's not do that again. But we're gonna do it again because there might be a slight demand or curiosity for this specific type of scrolling that I have formulated in my masterful brain. Okay, hear me out. It's a sister location type of scrolling where your position on the screen, just on your computer screen, left to right. You don't have to. It's a scrolling where you don't have to hold your mouse to the left or the right, and then your position, your camera position, slowly scrolls to the left or the right. Your position is automatically adjusted based on the position of your mouse. That's why it's like sister location scrolling. But it's not exactly the same method. It feels a little bit smoother, people have told me, and so I thought I'd let you in on how exactly I did this. I didn't get any tutorial for this, and there isn't a tutorial for it, so I thought I'd make it myself. So, right. I already have this application here. Nothing's in the commands. There's nothing here. You don't have to worry. Um, for the purpose of this tutorial, we're going to resize to, what was it? No, not, fuck. In here, we're going to resize 2500 by 1080. But keep in mind, this can be any frame size you want. I'm just having it at this size because of the office I'm going to be using. We'll just have it active, we're not going to rename it. And we will get UCN office. Alright, and we'll set the position to the top right, it doesn't really matter. But we have this office that I just found online. Just looking up FNAF office, so that I'd have something. And it should be the exact size. Now, so that it doesn't look bad, we're just going to make the background black. There we go. I run it up, and yeah, I'm in the middle. Actually, no, I think I'm to the far. Wait, no. Okay, now it should scroll, because I had the application size at the same size as the frame size, so it was showing the whole thing. That's a problem. Okay, now we're off to the side. Everything's good now. Alright. I'm gonna go ahead and do my better full screen from tutorial number 1. I'm just gonna go ahead and set that up. No. We're gonna go ahead and just add a command so that I can. No, actually, I don't need to do that. I can run this and then I do full screen and yeah. Okay, good. Alright. Now on to the actual scrolling. If you want to see what the scrolling looks like, you can skip to the end of the video. I don't know why I didn't say that earlier, but if you want to see what it looks like, just go ahead and skip to the end. If you're still here, we're like waiting to see what it actually looks like. And then if you actually want to figure it out, keep watching. So maybe I should add some perspective too. We're just gonna make it look nice, okay? Pardon me. Skip forward a few minutes. Or maybe just 1 minute. If you want to get right down to the fucking business. Good enough. Where's the fucking line? Isn't there a line somewhere? That should. What are the dimensions? Okay, here it is, I see it. Now we're gonna make that follow the frame. Wait, no, it already does, right? Okay, now we have perspective, and you don't really notice it. So let's make it heavier perspective. 100. For real, 100. Anyway. The actual frame size is... Fuck. There we go. That should be enough scrolling. Okay. Now we're on to it. So the first thing you gotta do, all you need for this scrolling is about 3 commands. I mean, at minimal, it only needs 3 commands. The scrolling that I first made only had 3 commands, and 1 active required to do it. We're just gonna rename this active as scrolling, right? And we're just gonna align it at the bottom and align it at the horizontal center. And so it should be down here now. Now, make sure you make it invisible unless you want it to be invisible or whatever. Now, this object is important because this is going to be the thing that scrolls. You can't, I don't think you can set the scroll just based on your X mouse alone. I think you need an object to set the scrolling to. You can't just say, hey, I want the scrolling to be set to my mouse. I don't think that can happen. If it is, let me know. But that's why there's 1 object necessary. If that wasn't a thing, if Clickteam allowed for that, we wouldn't need any objects at all. Because this method is pretty much just math. That's all this really is. So the first thing is going to be pretty simple. We're just going to make an always command, right? I'm not going to go too deep into the format of Clickteam. I'm making this tutorial with people, like, going in with people kind of understanding what Clickteam is and how to do things. And so, always, we're going to do, wait, no, in here, scrollings, center horizontal window position, or just window position in frame at relative to scrolling. So, now here's where the math comes into play. Wait, no, there's one more thing. We have to have some variable, I think, to set the X position to. So let's just say we're going to set global value A to the X position of scrolling. Those 2 things are going to be in there. Those are necessary. Now on to the actual thing. I'm going to go ahead and make the command, and then I'll explain exactly what it means. Now, what does that number mean? What is 1250? What does that mean? Now, here's explaining exactly what the scrolling actually does. What it does is it's centered around the entire width of your frame divided by 2. That it's always going to be that, no matter what the width of it is, no matter the height doesn't matter. Don't worry about whatever the height is. The only important thing to this scrolling is the width of the frame. And in this case, it's 2500 or 2500. And so that is going to be, I chose 1250 because that is half of 2500. And so I'm going to go ahead and make the second command, and I'll explain to you why this is the thing. What these 2 commands are doing is I'm dividing the screen in 2. When you are left of the middle of the screen, the middle coordinate, which is when your X mouse is lower than 1250, when your X position of your mouse is lower than 1250, meaning that you're on the left side of the screen, it's going to do something. When it's greater than 1250, that means your mouse is on the right side of the screen, and it's going to do something else. And these 2 commands are necessary to doing exactly what it is that I'm doing, which I'm not doing very good at explaining. So this number is very, very important to exactly how to get this to work. It's going to reappear in the commands that we add here in the insert your action. Because your scrolling is going to be centered around that number. What happens is, what this does is that when your mouse is on your left side, it's on the left side of the middle of the screen. it's going to add a certain value to your scrolling thing here, to the exposition of the scrolling, and it's going to add a tiny fraction of an amount of the actual how far away your mouse is from the center of the screen. It's going to add a tiny bit of that to its exposition. It's not going to add all of that. It's not going to add all of the distance between your mouse pointer and the middle of the screen. It's going to add part of it so that it scrolls fluently. And I'm going to show you how to do that. It does it on both sides, by the way. It doesn't make sense now, but it's going to. Set X coordinate when it's, let me check again. When it's lower, when it's on the left of the screen. Because my memory's a little bit messed up at the moment. Greater or equal or greater, it doesn't really matter. As long as equal isn't in both commands, you're good. It doesn't matter if it says greater or equal, and this one says lower, or if this one says lower or equal, and this one says greater. It doesn't matter. As long as both of them don't say greater or equal or lower and equal, as long as both of them don't have the equal in there, you should be good. Now, brain fart. Right. Now we're going to do set X position, X coordinate, to 1250. Okay, so because that's our base. What this is going to be is just a modification of the X coordinate that is the middle of the screen. It's just going to be like when it's greater, right? When it's greater, it's going to add a certain value to it, right? And then when it's over here, when it's lower, and when it's on the left side, it's going to be 1250, the middle of the screen, minus a certain amount. So you scroll to the left. But right now we're working with the right side of the screen. Sorry for stuttering. I am great at talking. Let me try to remember. Oh, right. So this is where I actually have to think. Like I said, this is very math-based, so a lot of this might not make sense. But I'm going to recap at the very end to kind of just pretty much say that everything that I do here and everything I put into place it's like a template. And so you can just fill in the numbers that you need and then you get it to work. You don't actually have to know all this math and think as hard as I'm thinking right now. Let me think. The distance between X mouse and 1250. X mouse is going to be positive, and it's going to be greater than. So it would be X mouse minus 1250. And this is specifically for the left side of the screen command. Now we have that. Well, there's one more thing we got to do, right? Because I said that it would be the middle of the screen plus the distance between the mouse and the middle of the screen. But a fraction of it, right? And so we're going to make this a fraction by adding the divide by. And we're just going to throw a number up there, say 4. The bigger that number is that divides at the very end, the tinier the fraction is that will scroll you to the left or the right. And I'll test with that and show you exactly what that means when we run up the game and I actually do this. So now we're working with the left side of the screen, lower than 1250. Because when you're all the way, because the way the coordinates work is when you're in the top left corner, you're at 0, 0. And when you move to the right, you add x coordinates. You add numbers along the x-axis. And when you go down, you add numbers along the y-axis. It's weird, but that's how it works. I don't think I explained that. But yeah, that's basically it. I don't think I can paste it. Fuck, I can't paste it. Okay. But yeah, we're going to do the same thing, set x coordinate, but it's going to be 1250, the middle of the screen, minus a certain amount so that you start scrolling to the other side. Minus. Now in this case, X mouse, the X position of your mouse is lower than 1250 because you're on the left side. You're not over the middle coordinate. So in this case, we still want a positive value, so I can't just do x mouse minus 1250. That won't work. What I have to do this time is 1250 minus x mouse, so that we still have a positive value. And that'll still give you the difference between the values, but it'll be a positive value, and that's important. So make sure that when you're on the left side, when you're on the command that means you're on the left, that means the position of the x position of your mouse is on the left side, that you have it like this, oriented, and not x mouse minus that amount. Make sure it's that amount minus x mouse. And then we're going to do 5, and then, no, we're going to do 4, right? We're doing 4. And that should be it. That should be it, if I have the right value. Now let's see. Yeah, see what I mean? Now, this is basically the concept. When I'm over here, I'm adding a little bit, and it's being fluent, right? But I can still see that, like, once my mouse is kind of over here, there isn't any more screen. Like, I'll stop, and then, like, in this area right here, it doesn't scroll anymore. And that's because of the dividing by 4. The value isn't big enough so that when you're all the way on the very left or right of the screen, it goes all the way to the very left or right. There's kind of a little bit too much, added back. So we'll have to mess with this value. But for reference, I'll just show you what's kind of happening. If I were to make these divided by 1, it would literally be if I just, does this scrolling look familiar? I bet it does. I bet it looks familiar, doesn't it? It's what happens when you just set your scrolling to the active object, and you set the active object to your mouse position. Because that's really all that's happening here. But we're making it smoother. We're going to make it smoother by adding only a tiny amount of that difference. And so you don't just go zip, zip, zip all the way. Because the position of your mouse is the position of your mouse in this case is the middle of the frame that is going to be scrolling along, right? So we don't want that large of a number to add back, because then you'll hit the screen and there won't be much more place to scroll. So let's try 5, and maybe then it'll be smoother. Now see, when I'm going all the way over there, the screen is still moving slightly when I'm all the way over. So I think this is the right value. Now to figure out the right value, you just kind of do trial and error, because I'm not that fucking smart to know exactly what value you need depending on your screen width. But just test around and see what feels right. This is basically the idea. Depending on your position on your computer screen, it will scroll that whole way. Like, I can move a little bit in the center, I can move a little bit over here, and it's entirely dependent on the X position of your mouse. It's entirely dependent on that. You don't have to hover over some object over here and then scroll all the way. It's very automatic. And that's the scrolling, basically. And I think it feels pretty nice. And so that's the tutorial I wanted to make. And let me just do one more thing. Like, if we were to set it to 2, as you'll see, as the number goes higher, it will become smoother and smoother. Like, now it's doing that, but it's slightly smoother. You see in the middle, we're making progress. But then if we go up to 3, we get even better. Even better. And then I already showed you 4 and 5. Now what if I were to do it to 8? If I go too high, I'm only adding a very tiny amount. I'm only adding a very tiny amount to the scrolling. So what's going to happen is I can't actually, well, no. In this case, it's kind of hard to notice, but let's do divided by 20. If we're doing a very big number, the amount that we're adding back to the X position of the object is very tiny. And so you barely scroll at all. And we don't want that. When it's too high, you scroll very little. When it's too low, you scroll really, really quickly and really a very large amount. So we found in this case the perfect value was 5. And you're just going to have to figure out that value for yourself through trial and error by adding that divided by whatever number. But the only important thing is to remember that you replace this 1250 with whatever is the half, whatever is your screen width divided by 2. In this case, it was 2500, right? And so I did 1250. If the screen width was 1000, I would replace all of these values everywhere to 500. If it was 1920, if the width was 1920, let's actually, no. I can figure this out. 10, 460, 960. All these numbers would be replaced with 960, I think. That's all you really need to fill back in, and then just trial and error with these numbers that you divide by. And then basically that is the template. And that's all you gotta do. That's the whole scrolling. Let me just do it again. Because, you know what? It's very nice and fluent, right? I like this scrolling. I just thought I'd share it with y'all. This is a scrolling that's going to be used in one of my upcoming projects and an official game of a series. No, an official game that has not been finished for many, many years. You can probably guess what that game is, right? I don't have to say it. This scrolling is going to be in that game. Because it's very good scrolling, it's very fluent. Maybe I'll post this this MFA in the description of this video so that you can see it and like kind of test it with yourself. And when you feel it, you'll be like, wow, this is smooth. It is pretty smooth. It feels good. Just adding that little bit to the middle of the screen, giving yourself a little bit of scrolling by adding a certain amount. Yeah, I would have saved this as a scrolling tutorial. Boom. That's it. This is all it is. That's all it is. And it has this very fluent, nice feeling scrolling. Alright. Thanks for watching.